What's up, everybody? It's Ronnie Haskins. I got my team here today. We're going to talk about EV vehicles and what we actually think about it and what's going on in our country so that we can just have a fun discussion about it. We've got some pros and cons on when they're going all electric, why we're going all electric, all different types of questions. I'm going to bring in the team now. I got Marcus Morgan, who is our resident sports car guy. And Formula One racing guy, so he's got a lot of education that way. Bobby's our 20-year military vet who loves luxury cars, and Bonnie's also a luxury car person. Bonnie Simon's been with us about 4 years now, but her opinion is always exceptional. She's the only one in the room with a master's degree. So,
yeah, more about just about everything than I do.
Yeah. So you guys got your microphone set up so we can hear you. How you guys doing?
Good. Doing real well.
It's another great day, baby.
So, the thing came up. We were in the office talking about electric vehicles and what we thought about it. And we have clients calling us all the time about different types of vehicles that, everybody wants a hybrid right now or some type of vehicle that they can use that gets better gas mileage. And it's in the news all the time about Tesla and what's going on with the EV revolution. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to come in and talk about a few questions and see if we can answer some of those questions. And some of it is our opinion. Like, this is what we're thinking is going to happen based on what we're seeing in the marketplace. So I hope whoever joins us today, I hope you like this. And as usual, if you got comments or questions, please drop them in the comments area. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. We appreciate that. So who wants to kick it off? Who's excited today to talk about a specific subject?
That's why I'm excited to talk about EVs all the time.
Yeah,
you're in an EV club.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's your first question? We had questions.
You're going to straight into the questions? You don't want to drop any opinion on us or what you're thinking about this whole electric thing?
Well, half of my argument is opinionated, so
yeah.
Per question. So
all right. Okay, so here's the first topic I had on the docket. When will the USA be all electric? Not a political argument, but when will it be? I got data sitting on my screen here. What do you think, Marcus?
You know what? The data I've been looking at, even I think President Joe Biden came out today and said that they plan on going full electric by 2050. You'll hear everything from 2025 to 2030 to 2040, but in all honesty, it'll probably be 2050, if ever.
If ever. Okay, 2050. That's what I'm seeing too. Like when you look at the date for carbon neutrality by manufacturer, Bentley all the way down to Volvo, they all have varying years that they're pledged to be carbon neutral, but Ford 2050, Honda 2050.
What do they mean when they say carbon neutral?
That's why we have you on the channel, Bonnie.
That carbon neutral doesn't always mean that it's going to be all electric or that they're not going to be using any carbon. Sometimes there's talk about carbon credits where I can't remember who sells credits and who buys the credits and how all that works, but sometimes there's like a sort of abstract neutralizing system that doesn't mean that they actually would not be putting any carbon out into the atmosphere. So I don't know if that's different from when all of their cars would be electric or hydrogen fuel cell or something other than internal combustion engine.
All right, so they have another. So in Forbes magazine, this was released. Let me scroll up to the top. This was released. I think it's been a while. Every automaker's EV plans through 2035 and beyond. It's October 4th, 2021. There's a chart that shows two different categories. I'm sorry for my delay, but let me look at this. So date for PHEVs dash BEVs only, date for BEVs only. So what does BEV mean? Anybody know?
No, PHEV is a plug-in electric, but I don't know about BEV.
So PHEV is a plug-in hybrid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's BEV? Battery electric vehicle?
Battery
electric vehicle.
Can someone Google it? Anybody got a?
Yeah, I looked it up. It's battery electric vehicle.
Okay, so
already knows.
The pledge by Bentley for PHEVs is 2026 or 2030 for totally EV. So that's it. Carbon neutrality is 2030. That was a great question, Bonnie. I don't know what carbon neutrality means. Like that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be all electric. BMW's pledge says 100% renewable energy by 2050. There's nothing about carbon neutrality.
Yeah, I think that's a big. It's a big confusing factor in modern discourse, is that we use so many different terms. They don't always mean what we thought they meant, and so it's very confusing. Like, what are we doing, and what are we really talking about? So we almost have to always start with the definitions. Which
I think here's something you could take to the bank: Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, Mazda, Honda, and Ford by 2050, carbon neutral.
Carbon neutral. Okay.
General Motors, GM. You see, there's no Chevrolet on this list because all GM.
Right.
2040. So they're 10 years before the rest of the big manufacturers. Hyundai, Kia, undated pledge. They're not saying anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they're not tied to our political spectrum either. They're
not American companies. Yeah.
Right. So.
And I think we always kind of go to the extreme when we're implementing new concepts and new ideas. I mean, when we start talking all electric, I'm thinking for the United States, that could be like an 80% type of number. I mean, if it's not the United States if they force everybody to do it. It's just not something that everyone's going to do. It's freedom tied to that.
I think you're right too, because they've also stated, like GM has stated, that they're not going to stop making vehicles that they're using for the rural population, like diesel trucks. People are pulling big campers. What about people that have chosen that lifestyle? They want to travel the country and pull their fifth wheel or their big RV.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those things just don't have the range to travel the country in a decent amount of time. So they've already stated that. And then farmers, farmers moving stuff, driving these diesel trucks that have to pull a whole lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
For extended amount of time and range, they're still going to make those vehicles, right?
Yeah, they're going to have to. I think it's an interesting situation because the companies are kind of in a difficult spot. On one hand, there's a lot of political and social pressure to reduce carbon emissions one way or another, to go all electric, to do whatever. On the other hand, there's, like we were talking about before, that there's a number of just social factors of the infrastructure that are going to make it more complicated than it initially looks like to have everything be electric. And then there's the problem that some people will never buy an electric car, no matter what they say or do. So or a hybrid. And so there's kind of a catch-22 for them, that they've got to figure out how to please the most people in the most practical way possible, and in a way that is not going to backfire when the technology actually gets out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe, just being pro EV, we're talking 30 years down the road. So we got to make room for technology and innovation where people are going to make these things have a longer range. They might be able to introduce them into farm equipment in the next 20 years. Who knows? But as of right now, just as a blanket statement, all electric, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more and more that we talk about how the U.S. wants to go carbon neutral, we also got to look at other countries like Canada and Europe. Europe is planning on only selling EVs after 2030. But when you bring it back here stateside, we're looking at 42% of people who have even driven an EV will want to purchase one. So that's less than half of the population who has ever driven an EV. That's not owning, just driving an EV.
Can you repeat?
Can
you repeat that? 40% of what?
42% of people who have driven an electric vehicle would consider purchasing one. So less than half of everybody who's even driven one would purchase one.
I think we lost Bonnie.
Yeah, I just saw some lightning go by her house in the back there. She might have just had
I think her power went out.
Yeah. Oh, no.
There we go. Lightning strikes. It's happening. All electric.
Talk about electrified. Jeez.
So 42% of people that have driven, like they test drove one or
just
drove with friends, only 42% of them. Now, what are the odds of it not being a Tesla? I mean, it was probably a Tesla.
I mean, yeah, but there are other electric vehicles out there. I mean, you got the Rivian, the truck that's rivaling the Cybertruck that Tesla has. More and more EVs are. I mean, Chevy's had the Volt for a while. That's EV. We have, Hyundai and Kia making more EVs than pretty much any other manufacturer right now. So there were other options, but most of that is most likely Tesla because that's who everybody identifies an electric vehicle with.
Yes.
And I also believe it's going to be geographically focused. I mean, obviously, it's like if you think about the city and public transportation and stuff like that, you're going to have those type of things. But in rural America, it's going to be a slower adaptation because they're driving further to get to work. They got different things going on, different needs. But those that are working and staying in the city limits, I think our cities and our large cities will have that mass adaptation earlier than most rural cities.
Yeah, and another piece of data I found was range is the biggest concern amongst American citizens. Is the EVs just don't have the range. I mean, most Americans expect EVs to have a 500-mile range, and there's only one EV on the market right now that has that, and it's the $140,000 Lucid Air. That's the only EV that can do over 500 miles on a single charge.
Why would they want that though? When not many cars go that far, like most cars do about 400 miles.
Charging stations are harder to find than gas stations, though.
So they want your data is showing that Americans want EVs that do 500 miles.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's just road trip safety. I mean, if we think about most of the vehicles that we're driving today, I mean, on average, and this is not statistic, this is my average, but around 400 miles, is what we're accustomed to with a gas vehicle. And
right.
We've been able to become accustomed to being able to find a gas station and find a place to fuel up within that mileage, and until EVs meet that with those charging options, people are not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel comfortable.
Yeah. You know what happened in Q1 in 22? Tesla's market, it just about exceeded 2.5% of the market share in USA and Canada. So 310,000 cars, so like everybody thinks Tesla's selling an awful lot of cars. They're actually
not.
They're not. And when people are saying, hey, we're all going electric, it's like, no, you're buying a Tesla. I mean, it's like you're either buying a Tesla right now. There's a few options trickling out on the marketplace, but it's just Tesla. And it's a very, very small piece of the market right now. But we do think that's going to change by 25, right?
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, there's over 250 million cars on the road and less than 1% of those are electric. So, I mean, there's room for improvement. And I believe I have some data here showing that it's estimated by 2030 that EVs will take up 10% of the market share in the global market. So not just America, but all over by 2030, 10%, which is a huge increase from what we're seeing now.
Okay, so 10% market share by 2030?
Yes.
In the USA and Europe?
Globally, yeah.
Globally. Okay, that's a big number. I mean, but still, we think that I don't see Ram didn't even slow down during the first time gas was high in 08. Like they were Dodge was still making the Hellcat, so like I haven't seen them say anything about electric vehicles.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is their newest project is putting the Hellcat motor in a minivan. So I don't know if Dodge will ever go electric.
That's true.
Putting the Hellcat motor in a minivan.
You know what, man? They're not even on the list. Like, so on this list that I'm looking at, Jaguar, Land Rover, Mazda, Nissan. Good news, Ram people.
And I mean, they've got a reputation to uphold. I mean, they are the American muscle car. That's who does it. Who does it best, probably. Some may say. So they're going to be the last to adopt it. You're going to have to drag them in, kicking and screaming, and all of their supporters are going to be.
All of their supporters. It's not just that car company.
Yeah.
People love the Charger and the Challenger. Actually, the Challenger is my favorite muscle car. So it's
exactly. That's what I'm saying. All their supporters are going to be right behind them,
and their trucks.
It's almost going to come to a vote.
And their trucks are some of the best trucks in the game right now, especially with that Cummins motor. So yeah. I mean, Dodge is definitely, one of a kind. But I love that about them.
So it's a good segue. Like you said, 30% by 2030 globally. Here's the question on the table: will we ever be 100% electric? Like, will the day come in our lifetime? I guess we should say, because we all watch sci-fi movies and we see Minority Report and stuff like that. We think this is coming. But like in the foreseeable future, do you think we're going to be 100% electric? Like gas stations closing down, which is a whole nother video. Like, what are they going to do with all those? I've actually done research on that. They sell more food and stuff than they do gas, so they'll be fine. But will we ever go electric? What do you guys think?
I do not think so. I really don't. There's a lot more focus on renewable fuels and hydrogen powered cars and things like that I believe will take over the electric market in the 30 years that they think we'll be going all electric. When you look at developments in road cars, most of that development in the proper road cars comes from motorsport, and Formula One being the leading charge on that. I mean, the first semi-automatic gearbox was put in a Formula One car before it was ever introduced into a road car in 1984. They also have shaped pretty much the way hybrid technology has worked in Formula One. And the fact that manufacturers are pulling out a Formula E right now, which is Formula One's electric counterpart, shows that it might not be going all electric as soon as we think, and it might not ever go all electric. So I think renewable fuels like plant-based fuels and hydrogen fuel will be, the technologies will be more advanced, and I think they'll go further than the electric vehicles will when it comes down to 2050.
What do you think, Bobby?
I can agree with that. I think I don't foresee, like if we're talking within our lifetime, the next 30, 40, 50 years, I don't foresee that being an all electric situation. What I can possibly see is that manufacturers will only be marketing electric or some type of non-combustible engine type of vehicle. I can see that happening in the next 50 years, but no one can control what we keep in our garage for the next 50 years either. And there's going to have to be somebody that's servicing those customers and those clients.
I agree. I mean, personally, I don't know how they're going to do it based on my small bit of data, which is where I travel and when I go out of town and looking at the charging infrastructure. I'm like, man. And then what I know about our state's always been behind in highway and roads. Like, we're just so far behind. And
I-70 is a disaster.
It's always a disaster. I mean, we've just grown accustomed to it. Like, it's just, oh yeah, it's normal. But like, now we got to put in charging stations for everybody. We think it's going to happen, but I would like to see the roadmap and what that's going to look like going for the next 10 years. That would be nice to see that.
Yeah.
So,
and going back to the charging infrastructure, I mean, right now we're seeing Texas and California asking their electric car owners not to charge their cars until overnight because it's taking too much of the power grid up. I mean, and like I said before, electric cars only take up 1% of the vehicles on the road, less than 1% of the vehicles on the road. Yeah, today. So, I mean,
we have in California.
Yeah. So we have to do some serious upgrades to the power grid in the electric infrastructure to even put enough charging stations out there.
All right. So that leads into the next question. All right. This is the explosive one of the day. Why are we going electric? Which is, guys, this is all opinion, and you can put your opinion in the comments, because we would love to learn what your opinions are about it. But I think I'll turn it over to Bobby for the first explosive answer of the day for why are we going all electric by what did the president say, by 2050?
2050. I mean, in my opinion, I think we all can agree that electric currently is the least expensive option. We can talk about carbon footprint. We can talk about all those different things. I think there definitely has to be, some type of increase in our renewable energies and different things that's supporting that. So they're going to be pushing more solar. We're going to have more wind, more different things like that. But ideally, I think it's the cheaper option, and it could be just a fad. It could really just be a fad. it could be a fad that's going to last a long time, but ideally right now it's a fad. They're trying to put rebates and different things like that, so it's making it seem as if it's good for the taxpayer, and it may be. I'm a fan of electric, but to say that there's any real particular reason outside of global warming or something like that, I don't know. I don't know why we're going electric or trying to adopt it so quickly.
What do you think, Marcus?
Well, why I think people are wanting to go electric is they believe it is better for the environment, which, I mean, kind of, not really, but with what Bobby said as to, expense, I actually, electric cars, the average price of an electric vehicle is about $15,000 more expensive than your average road car, combustion engine. So with that, even with the tax credits and things like that, I still don't think, actually, I have more data on that here. It says 53% of Americans do not want to pay more for alternative powertrains, regardless of the tax credits given out. So when you really look at the expenses, maybe they can start lowering the price again. I know Tesla started off great with their pricing model and their business model, but since then, I mean, the Model Y is a $70,000 car when 6 years ago it was a $30,000 car?
That's true. I mean, the pricing has gone up. I mean, and I like your answers. I'm struggling with this answer because I'm not sure. Like all of a sudden we're all going electric. I don't see any news reports or articles about what we're doing with the lithium batteries once they expire. We didn't have to think about that with the combustion engine. It's like, okay, we can junk the car, we can rip the engine out, we can pour the fuel out of it and the oil out of it, and we can reuse the metal. I don't know what they're doing with those lithium batteries at the end of their life cycle. Like, do we need to shoot them into the sun? I mean, I don't know what's going on with them, and I don't know where the lithium mines are. Where are they mining this stuff? Like, I don't see it in Pueblo, Colorado, or Cripple Creek, Colorado. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping somebody that watches this can put their opinion in there, or their data or their facts in there. It's like, look, I don't know where they're getting this lithium from. I know it's finite. It doesn't regrow. I mean, but I'm not educated on it. So I don't know. But so what leads me to believe why we're going electric is these cars are attached to a grid. When you own a Tesla, they know where you're all at all times, right, Bobby?
Absolutely.
And so now I start thinking, wow, if all of the manufacturers are making all electric cars and they're all on the grid, they're tracking everybody, just like this, just like the cell phone, which freaks me out. I'm like, wow.
And I got to debate Marcus on the cost.
All
so
right.
Let's just go ahead and talk about this cost thing. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of Tesla, but Tesla, just like you said, they're dominating the road, and that's still only 1%. So there's a few things that make prices go down. It's competition, and it's availability. So once we have competition and availability on the market, these prices aren't going to drop. Right now it's just one of those things where we're in this inflationary period. Gas prices are through the roof. So now people are taking that demand and they're deciding, I'm willing to pay anything currently for that. But if you're talking about 100% adaptation, you're going to need to make this thing affordable for Americans. That's the only way it's going to happen. There's got to be a $20,000, $30,000 vehicle out there that's electric that can still at least get them 300 miles of range.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about competition and availability, which there's not a whole lot of competition out there for Tesla right now. Manufacturers are growing in that sense, but not enough to keep up with Tesla. And, when the gas prices, if the gas prices ever start to, trickle down back towards the $2.75 a gallon, then those EV prices will drop as well. Absolutely. But another thing you got to take into consideration is if you do have an at-home charger, not only is that going to raise your electric bill, but that's in some cases can take longer to charge. And a lot of companies right now are, when you purchase an electric vehicle, they will go install a charger in your house. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people don't know is that will drive your electricity bill up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's got to be a lot to it too. Like once they, like in any neighborhood, maybe there's 3 or 4 chargers. I'm guessing. What happens when it's 80% of the houses?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do to our grid? and our consumption. I don't know.
I think that's where the solar and everything comes in. I mean, I think that's why they've been pushing that initiative. And I think they just got a little bit ahead of themselves because we hadn't even got everybody to kind of buy into that idea yet. And then now here we are trying to put electric vehicles in every home, so those things are going to have to mesh. It can't all come from the grid. Some of it's going to have to be self-sustained.
Okay. Here's another question for you guys. What do you think car companies need to do to make us all electric? You said a couple of them. Make the cars more affordable, which we see that happening. Like GM has just cut the price of the Volt or the Bolt. They're having some battery issues. Like those cars are having some issues right now. They've stopped selling them until they resolve that. But they're talking about cutting those prices. I was reading an article. Mary Barra is the CEO of GM, and she was like, look, they're slicing the price on that vehicle to make it more affordable and more offerings. Like you guys said, more availability and more options to choose from by 2025, I think. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot more electric vehicles on the market. That's GM though. What do you think outside of range? We know they need to do more range and more affordability, but what else can they do to bring us into this revolution?
Battery efficiency. So not only the range, but on average right now at highway speeds, electric vehicles fall 37% short of their marketed range. So
hold on. So you're like my watch will tell me I charge it up and you got 2.5 days left to charge, but then 8 hours later it's at 20%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about everybody's got that phone and that watch. It's like, you got 2 days. No, I don't. I got to put it back in the charger by 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So it's all about efficiency. I mean, at highway speeds, where when you're coasting and doing all that stuff, in road cars, you actually gain fuel economy. But when you're cruising at highway speeds in an electric vehicle, you're losing efficiency in that battery because there's no regenerative braking going on at highway speeds. When you're in the city, the shortfall goes down to 20%. So 17% better than at highway speeds, but that's still, I mean, if it's charged for 100 miles, you'd only get 80 miles out of it just driving through the city.
For those of you who don't know where regenerative braking is, it is so cool. So I had this Tesla we bought to play around in the office with it for a couple of weeks. I never had to use the brake pedal, except when I was dead at a stop. It like basically when you're driving, it has one of the functions is it's called hold. So every time you let go of the accelerator, the car brakes itself. And so it's also reading cars in front of it and distance and whatnot. And that braking helps regenerate the battery. So it extends the range of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's very nominal. It's not going to get you another 100 miles, but it's still, every time you drive that way, you can extend the amount of time before you have to charge the car again.
Yeah, it's all just about transferring unused energy back into the battery pack, which once again was developed by Formula One. So wow. Another way of how motorsport has, developed the road cars in that way. But yeah, regenerative braking is dope.
What about you, Bobby, on how they can make us all electric outside of range and availability?
I'm about to get real controversial, Ron. So they're just going to have to go straight mind control. I mean, they're going to have to be some marketing experts. They're going to have to start putting some commercials out there and some celebrities and all this stuff. And they're going to have to start changing the mind of the masses. I mean, I think that's really the only way that they're going to make this thing happen. They're going to have to do some mind control.
So in short order, you're saying they got to sell it to us.
They're going to have to sell it. And not only are they going to sell it, but then they're going to start putting it in our hearts and minds, just like the Formula One and the muscle and all that other stuff is currently in the hearts and minds of Americans. So it's going to have to be a thing where you're getting so much pressure from the left, the right, the up, the down, where it's like, okay, I'll try it. It's going to be one of those type of situations.
All right, I got a controversial one for you, how they can do it. And it's something you guys haven't mentioned. And it's the one thing that why probably Ram isn't on the list yet, or Dodge. Sound.
Yes.
So they're making a new Ford Raptor with a V8. It's got a 5.2 liter. The Raptor originally had the 6-cylinder in it, and it sounded really good. But when you set it next to a Ram TRX, it sounded like a kitten. So like they even named the TRX T-Rex, T-Rex.
Raptor killer.
It was subliminal. It was like, oh, you got a Velociraptor. You got a Velociraptor. We have a T-Rex. And so now Ford has produced this 5.2 liter. I just listened to it. You can turn them on and listen to them. Nothing beats that sound. And they don't have that yet in these electric vehicles. Like, it's silent. It's silent.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to sound, I don't think there's anything better than a V12 racing motor. That sound is just, gorgeous. And that's, a lot of car guys will have that point of view too, to where, we're all, give us the combustion because we want to hear our cars make noise. And it's just something about it just soothes the soul, at least for me. So,
I mean, what do you think they can do about that? I mean, it's a question that I just kind of threw out there, but like, can you just play like a playlist? Like, you're just like,
yeah, but that's not the same.
Hey, I'm gonna sound like a minivan, but tomorrow I want my car to sound like
a Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini. On the way, when I drop the kids off, I like to sound this way. Like I don't know how they're gonna get over that, because those Challenger, even people that are driving these 3-row seat Dodge Durangos, those things sound amazing. And so it's gonna be like Bobby said, it's gonna take mind control to get them to say, I don't need that anymore. I'll go all electric.
Yeah. But also when you look at it, it's like not everybody likes loud cars and not everybody likes that. So, I mean, of course I do, but I'm,
The people that don't like them, have they ever had them?
I don't know, but I get yelled at a lot. So, and my car's not even that loud. So
people yell at you on the road in your 86?
Absolutely. And in my neighborhood with even my brother's Audi, his A4 that
not even tuned, stock.
His Audi's tuned, but yeah, my 86 is completely stock, and it's apparently too loud for some of my neighbors.
Now, so some people, no matter what, they don't like the noise.
Yeah, they just don't like the noise, or they're just Karens or something. I don't know, but not everybody likes the noise. I mean, for me, it's just the connectivity with the car. When you press on that gas pedal, you can hear exactly what the car's doing, what it needs, what it wants, how much more throttle it can take, So I like that. I like the sound, but not everybody does.
And I'm a fan of the sound as well. But I'll tell you what, I mean, on the electric vehicles do have one thing that the gas vehicles have as well, and that's that pushback. I mean, when you get on that accelerator and that thing pins you against that seat, I mean, you're hearing things in your mind. You're hearing that motor hum, even when when it's completely silent.
You're not wrong about that. Every Tesla owner that you talk to, oh man, it's so fast, so quick. It was so bad that when I took it home, my son wanted to drive it. I'm like, absolutely not. Yeah. You're not touching this car. It's literally, guys, it's 0 to 60. I think it's 2.5 seconds.
The Model S Plaid is like 2.6 seconds, but
okay, so maybe that why we had let me look.
No, the Plaid is 1.99.
1.9, yeah.
It's under 2 seconds.
But I mean, you see a lot more of the Teslas on the drag strips now, and electric cars on drag strips now because of that instant torque. I mean, and honestly, I am fully combustion engine. I love them. But that instant torque is just something else, dude.
Another thing about that torque, dude, is I talked to a gentleman this week who's in this business. They produce screens for a lot of the car manufacturers globally. And he told me that 0 to 60 stuff is hard to they haven't figured out a way to not have the cars do that. Like, so, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, but like us parents, Marcus, that I'm like, here's your car, Jude. Oh, don't forget you're faster than me now. Like literally going to King Supers to get groceries, you are able to get to 60 miles an hour within 2 blocks.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know how we're going to get around that.
And to get that, like that quick horsepower and torque in combustion engine, I mean, there's cars that do it. Like Porsche has the 918 Spider that does it. It's a hybrid, but it does it in 2.6. You have, I mean, the new Nissan 400Z that will do it in 3.6 seconds. I mean, so you have it's all about induction and whether or not it's turbo or supercharged and the amount of turbo lag and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, you're talking about race cars. I'm talking about cars that we're going to have 16 and 17-year-old kids driving. Like, I'm not going to.
No, exactly. That was kind of my point. Was the only way you can get something with that much instant torque is if you spend 50, 60 grand on a sports car or 150 grand on a supercar when you can get them in the electric.
Right. And there are settings on these cars that kind of limit that torque right now. I know I was inside of the Mach-E, the Ford Mustang, and they do have a couple settings in there that take some of that power away. You know, where you can just accelerate. You accidentally press too hard, you're not going to go flying down the road. You know, so it's coming. I think the innovation is coming. I think somebody's going to invent something to make these things sound amazing. You know, it's not going to be the car manufacturers, but it's going to be someone. Someone's going to figure out these solutions.
We had a comment in the comments box from Medically Fit. He says, keep in mind additional costs for electrician to come wire up the EV charger, which can be anywhere from $750 to $1,500, depending on the type of charger. So, like, the thing is, like, if you buy these vehicles new, there's no getting away from paying for it. Like, they might say they're throwing it in or whatever, but you're buying a new one with the option of putting it in your house, or you're buying a used one and you're hiring an electrician to come put it in your house if you want that charging. And I'll tell you people out there, I bought that. We got that Tesla, and we had the regular $400 charger that plugs into the wall. The first time I plugged it in, it said it'll be done in like 3 days. So, like, it was like, oh my goodness, this is going to take a long time. So what I'm trying to say is you're going to want that 220 amp or 220 volt, whatever that is, 30 amp or 50 amp. You're going to want to be able to have the best possible fast charging available.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they are offering rebates, you know, for that. I don't know the specifics behind it all. We can do some research on that, but they are offering some rebates for those people that are putting those things in their home, just like for those who are putting solar in their home. You know, so go ahead.
I hear you saying, like, it's cool though, right? But like, how long, remember when these things, like, I'm a Galaxy user, Samsung, and I remember when we first got fast charging, and Apple was doing nothing like that. They had that lightning cable and it was slow. Mm-hmm. I think theirs charge a bit faster now. Now they've gone wireless as well. That's what freaks me out the most about these electric cars is how fast the technology changes. So my message to the universe too is, if you're going to do this electric thing, lease it, because I think in 3 years, you do a 3-year lease, and then in 3 years, it's going to be a completely different world. Like, it's, wow, you just pull yours in the garage and it connects via the floor. Yep. Yours doesn't do that. You know, that kind of stuff freaks me out. I'm like, I don't want to have one that's even 2 years old. What do you guys think?
That would be wild. Imagine pulling into your garage and your car just starts charging on the floor.
Yeah, it's happening.
I got something that'll blow your mind about this same topic. Out here around our office, there's a bus line. It's probably one of the only ones in the city, really. I don't see the bus much other places, but there are blue ones and there's purple ones. I took a picture of it the other day. I think I brought it to the office, and it says always been electric. It's the city bus.
Yeah.
So like, I'm challenging you guys to look into that. And I don't know how that works and how much range it has, where they're charging it. But that big city bus that you pull the bell on and get off is completely electric. So they're doing stuff, man.
And that's another thing too. I mean, for those city buses, just like in the electric cars of today, people are not, or they shouldn't be charging their vehicles up to 100%. You know, they should be keeping that vehicle in that 20 to 80% range, ideally. You know, in that 80% range, yeah, you know, it might get you 250 miles, but you're only going about 30 miles inner city, back and forth to work, back home, whatever the case may be. You can do that for 2 or 3 days, and it's charging faster in that range.
Yeah.
You know? And if you do it at the right time of the day, you know, yeah, they're talking about charging at night, but that's when the grid is not being utilized and that value is added to the consumer. So you're getting a better value on your electricity at that time as well.
Absolutely. And if you don't charge it over 80%, it actually increases the longevity of the battery life. Yep. So that's another good reason to keep it under that 100% charge. But on the other hand, when, you know, people are doing long road trips and stuff, it's hard not to charge it up to 100% if you got, you know, 200 miles before your next charging station.
Yeah, that's the exception. You definitely want to charge all the way up.
I'm losing that fight. I'm a 100% guy. Got to charge it all the way up. Sits on the charger all night long.
When it comes to my phone, yeah, but
now, just think bigger, right? I'm always trying to get you guys to think like crazy stuff. Is it going to change the trade-ins? I need you to prove to me that your battery's been charged properly the last 3 years.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, if I get it, it's full, Ron, it's 100%. Don't worry about it. But if your battery only lasts for like 2 days, if you charged it properly the last 3 years, I mean, these arguments are going to continue as we keep moving into this generation. And, you know, I don't know what the answers are, but it's going to be a wild ride.
Absolutely.
And I think that technology exists for the type of batteries that we're using right now. You know, you can take it to one of these automotive shops or whatever, and they can tell you, you know, how much life you have in your battery, or if it's time to change that battery or whatever. So if you got a 2021, 2022, and now it's 2023, and you don't have that much life in your battery, we know you weren't charging properly.
You know what's funny about that too, Bobby? I took it home like the first day I took it home, I charged it all the way up. It didn't take 3 days. I was joking earlier. I mean, it took a long time. Like the first day, I don't even think I filled it up. But when I finally filled it up,
Right.
It started dissipating as I drove the car. And that night I plugged it back in, and it told me, I was like, you don't need to do this. Right on the screen, it was like, you don't need to charge this up. You can decrease it. That Tesla will tell you you're going to decrease the life of this battery.
Right.
If you continue to do this. So
Exactly.
I think the technology get better. It'll probably just stop. It won't even need to tell you to be like, just let him think it's charging. It's fine. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, it'll get to a point where it's dummy proof, so to speak, where you can plug it in, but it's not going to charge. And I mean, we have those settings available even today where it's like, hey, this car is only going to charge from 20 to 80%. You get to 80%, it can be plugged in for the next 10 hours. It's not going to charge that battery anymore.
I thought they did that with the phones, though. A long time ago, the phones were like everybody, you know, having the first cell phones was difficult, you know, because they were like always dead. But I thought that you could just lay the thing on the wireless charger. It's not going to ruin it. It's got technology in it that limits it. So why haven't they done that with the cars? Like, but my data is just on hearsay. I haven't read it anywhere. Have you guys read it anywhere on the cell phones?
Yeah, the charging is limited. You can choose, like, it's within the car, not necessarily the charger. You know, so once you set that setting in your vehicle, then it's not accepting any more charge.
What else would you guys like to talk about? I know this is a hot topic for people. Anything else you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think, you know, EVs are exciting. They're new. They're, you know, technologically advanced. But when it comes down to it, just going back to will we ever be 100% EV? I really just don't think so. When you look at when you look over history and you see all these new innovations that come into it, I mean, cars and phones and everything just develop so quickly that new technology could be found tomorrow that will change our whole perspective on everything. So, yeah, it's exciting that EVs are here. I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I'll probably never own one, but you know, they are fun. They are exciting, but I just don't think they're the future. I really don't.
Bobby?
Well, I definitely think they're a future. I think, you know, they are the future. However, I mean, everything has its utility. There's a reason why most Americans have multiple vehicles, at least two. Some people have three. Some people got a luxury. Some people got a sport. Some people got an off-road. You know, so and we're trying to tie all those things into the electric world, but are people going to have 2 or 3 electric vehicles in the garage? And I don't see that happening. You know, they might have 2 for, you know, each adult or whatever the case may be. But when they want to pull a trailer and they want to go camping and they want to be off the grid for a week, you know, they're probably not going to take an electric vehicle out there.
My prediction is we're never going to go 100% electric, but once these things become more affordable, I think it's different. I think the families will have 2 or 3 electric cars because they'll be smaller and they'll be, it's just my opinion. Like they'll be like smaller vehicles that you can drive around and go to work and do stuff like that. But they'll still have that vehicle that's going to pull that camper, pull that boat, go for a long drive to see grandma all the way across the country, and that big SUV. I don't think those things are going to go away. But I think that once they become more affordable, we'll start seeing them be more mainstream. It'll be hybrid or electric or plug-in hybrid. I really wish we would have gone all hybrid instead of all electric. That's my 20 years of car business experience. Like, I just think hybrid would have been a much easier transition. the entire country. That's just, but I have limited data and limited knowledge on it. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. My opinion on the hybrid thing is I think it was a great idea. I think where they went wrong was the styling of them. They made them so minivan soccer momish, that they had no style. It was just for one utility, and that's to get the most mile per gallon possible.
Well, the Sienna came out in 2020 or 2019, the new one, and it's all hybrid. The Venza's all hybrid. Like Toyota's like going down that route. Like that's where they're going.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers are now. And, I think you're right. I mean, the first hybrid vehicle I can remember was the Prius. And everybody knows the styling of a Prius. It is not a good looking car. But, when you think about hybrids, like there's a lot of great hybrid technology out there, especially in, like the new Tundra. You're talking about Toyota. The new Tundra has a hybrid model. When you get into the luxury and sportier side of things, there's a ton of hybrids out there. I mean, even Formula One cars are hybrid cars. So when you get into the hybrids, I definitely think it would have been an easier transition and a better transition to begin transitioning into EVs. But yeah, I have no issues with hybrids. I think hybrids are great, and the fuel economy shows it, and even their emissions, like their carbon neutrality is better than completely gas motors. But once again, those lithium batteries, I mean, when you got to dispose of them, I really don't think they're much better than diesel. So
I think you're right, Bobby. Like to me, it's like if I was in the car market and I wanted to get a vehicle and I needed something for me, myself, and the kids, I'm 52, so I'm like, well, that car is probably not too fun. Like they haven't basically made the car exciting. Like this is exciting. Like they could have done that. They could have been like, hey, the Ram is putting the Hellcat in the minivan. Well, we got the turbo hybrid, 54 miles per gallon, and you click this button and it sounds like a Lamborghini. Like whatever. I think they just figured we were going to be excited about the gas mileage.
Right.
But I think people, like every person that we sell a van to, still wants to be cool to some degree, and then you look at those cars and you're like, a 1.3 liter. They don't know that the car is just as quick as their old car.
Right.
I've had to tell people, I'm like, this car is more torque than your car, even though the engine is smaller. They don't know. So like they could have done better with the mind control, the marketing, the advertising. Like you're not giving this up, you're just sliding over.
Yeah. Just getting the same horsepower and torque and everything with better gas mileage. I mean,
they didn't do a good job of that.
No, absolutely not.
Push it on us like, you want to be green and better gas mileage, don't you? No. We want to be cool, go fast, burn up a lot of gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Every parent out there wants to still be cool, man. It's like, and it's a hybrid? I was good with the minivan. Now I got to tell everybody I'm in a hybrid. It's like,
exactly.
You're cool.
We want to get the fuel economy, and we want to be able to deny it. It's
right.
Like, oh no, man,
I do.
Look at my car.
I do want to put 4 miles to the gallon, but I don't want anybody to know.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. Now they're starting to make the badging more discreet on the hybrids, where it's just like a little blue hue around the badge and everything, instead of saying, "I'm a hybrid."
I think you hit it out of the park with that one take. It's like, it's not cool.
It's not cool.
It's not cool. It's like,
yeah, great point.
And I mean, at the end of the day, no matter how much the utility is on just about anything, when you're paying a high value for anything, you still want it to look really nice.
Yeah,
it has got to work, it's got to perform, but you want to look nice. You want to be the envy of the neighborhood. You want to be the envy of the workplace.
Yeah.
It's just what we want to do as Americans.
Yeah, you don't run back up in there and go, look at my new van, man. Come outside, let me show you all this gas mileage.
Yeah, man. I just went like 300 miles the other day.
And then that one dude's gonna be like, yeah, look at my new Hellcat van.
I know, and everybody just gonna walk off with him.
5.7 V8 supercharged.
You guys should look that. If you're watching this and you haven't looked at, go Google that Hellcat minivan.
Yes.
I love that Dodge did that. I mean, Who puts a supercharged 5.7 V8 in a minivan?
They're just like,
Talk about a mommy missile.
We're not going carbon neutral ever, and we're going to be the only ones making muscle cars.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Soccer moms are going to put some people in their place.
Yeah, because Ford came out with that Mach-E Mustang, the all-electric SUV. That's not a Mustang. Take that badge off there, Ford. Come on now.
It is good looking, though. I've seen one in my neighborhood. My neighbor has one. It's a really good looking car.
Nice for an SUV, but it doesn't deserve that horse badge on it, man. Come on. Mustang is a muscle car, not electric.
Trying to make it cool.
Marketers are going to change the way you feel about horsepower, Marcus. Horsepower is going to be all electric in the future.
Yeah.
Like, if they made it a coupe, I would have been cool with it. But it's not a Mustang if it's an SUV. That's what I got to say. I mean,
there's like 0.1% of the market that wants a coupe.
Yeah.
Once you get 30, Marcus, you'll realize you can't crawl out of that car anymore.
I'll be crawling out of those cars till the day I die, Ronnie.
Maybe we'll get you a creeper. You know those mechanic creepers? You just roll out. Help me out, Bobby.
Hey, we have to send the whole office out to get them out the car.
I said the same thing when I was 24. I ain't never always have a sports car. Nope.
Oh, I mean, I'll have other things too, but nothing's gonna take me out of the adrenaline of a racing car, man. Nothing will. No, there's nothing like it.
For those of you that have watched this long, thank you. And number two, I got a follow up. I have a friend that's ordered a Cadillac Lyric. He's actually ordered two of them. So he's got the 23 model coming in September. We're going to do a video about that car and discuss that car when it gets here because we're seriously excited to see it. If you don't know what it is, the Cadillac's making an electric vehicle. It's called the Lyric. They're sold out for the 23 model, which will be released this fall. One thing about it, they were only front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. I don't remember, but they were not all wheel drive. So he ordered the 24 as well, which will be all-wheel drive. So, and once again, remember I was telling you guys earlier, just like 30 seconds ago, I was like, technology's changing like that. So like you buy these electric cars and you're like, I'm going to keep this 10 years. Hey, they got all-wheel drive. I'm like, yeah, last year they didn't even have it, you know, and now it's like, what's going to be next? You know? So we're going to do a follow-up video this fall on back to this electric stuff. We're going to talk about that car, get some video of it, and give you our opinion on that Lyric. It's about $64,000. I would say in this particular climate, a Cadillac, that's affordable. You know, if you're looking at a Cadillac, that's affordable. But, you know, that also means, oh, by the way, they did put out the new, I was looking at the Chevy Blazer, or I think it was the Blazer, something like that. But it looks just like the Lyric, but it's the Chevy version of it.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that to be $64,000. So that should probably be more affordable next year.
And when it comes to the Cadillac, we're talking about, like, one of my big issues with Tesla is the quality of the interior of the car. I just really do not like the interior of the Teslas. They're crunchy and plastic and all that. But when you look at the Cadillac and the Lyric, I mean, talk about luxury, man. That thing looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to see that car. So, yep, as usual, if you got opinions and comments, put them in the comments. There's no judging here. You're free to say whatever you want. We'd like to actually learn from you. So if you got better opinions or more facts, let us know. Anybody got any other closing shots?
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. True. We forgot that last time. Every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, we're doing this Mountain Time for all you East Coast people. And call us today if you got any questions, you want information. Advice is always free from us. We're happy to talk to you. So give us a holler.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. Have a great day.
Tune in.
Have a good rest of your day. Stay safe.
Take care.